Alright, hi everyone. So, if you couldn't tell, I was in a rush to get this out because I found some pretty disturbing new information from a bit of a 6-hour deep dive I did with my friend today. So, before I get into this, I want to put out a disclaimer because it gets pretty real and pretty disgusting, and I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to click off because I broke down into tears at some point making this. So, first, of course, the normal essay and the R word. Normalization, once again, warning for that. But also, genuine, like, serious warning for the P word. Of course, I'm going to display all of this on screen because it gets really bad. Also, warning incest or incesty kind of content. But yeah, if you're sensitive to any of that, I'd advise you to not watch this because it gets pretty real. But other than that, thank you for viewing, and I'd really appreciate if you did, because this, I feel like it needs to get out there because it's just so awful. But alright, enjoy if you can. Jumping right into it, we found out new information. There are two of them, and they are both men. Which I was under the impression one of them was a woman, but it turns out that is not true. There are two men, and we figured this out from a comment that I'll probably display on screen. It says, "Hi, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this. Bijin? Sorry if I butchered that, but this is Homura. Unfortunately, Harama is sick, which that means there's two people. Since he really have, it says really have a fragile and weak body. Their first language is not English. By the way, if that makes any difference, which it does later on, but he says, but he said he's fine and he will be back. So obviously what I got from this is there are two of them and they are both men. And how can I tell both of them are men? Well, the one video that has this stand-in person is their lover, and they have a very deep male voice. So I'm going to assume they're both men as we proceed with this video. So yeah, here we go. The first video I'm going to be going over is, and this is kind of hard to say, Hisoka turned into a child or takes child bills baby video rated 16 plus. Yeah, you heard that right. So in this video, the listener asked child Hisoka to call the adult listener Oni-chan. And if you don't know what that means, it's sister in Japanese, or sibling, I believe, in Japanese. Yeah, I think it's sibling in Japanese, not sister. My bad. After he says this, he says, after I'm done being a kid, he's going to screw YN. Not entirely illegal, but it does break community guidelines as they are not very shy about it. And the rules for child Hisoka is that they cannot refuse any of the YN character demands. Or, you know, any orders they might have. Later on in the video, after some awkward cleaning stuff, child Hisoka, let me preface, gets mad and says, even if I'm in a child's body, I can still fuck you senselessly. This line sent me to literal tears as I was on call, and he goes on to say, I can still fuck you and force you to obey me, even if I'm in a child's body. That's not very legal. Listener calls child Hisoka daddy. He asks the listener if their plan was to fuck a child all along. While calling them sister, they start making out. And he talks about their chest size and how it's bigger now that he's small. And starts calling her mommy and says he wants to suck mommy's breasts. Then he calls her sister again and does that act. Now, I don't think I have to explain why this is so disgusting. When I swear I had to pause the video multiple times to go through this, but I'm really in a rush to get this out because it gets so bad. It's so much worse than I thought. But anyways, I'll stop rambling. That's the first part. Next is a series that I have talked about previously in the other video. I touched on it a bit, but I'm going to really break it down because this is probably one of the worst offenders on their channel. So we'll start with part 1, which is sexual harassment. Killua makes lewd comments about the YN character stating, "I like the way you bend over," and etc. The character is obviously uncomfortable as she immediately tries to leave. Later on, forgets the food tray and comes back. He flirts with her very uncomfortably, then says he won't give it back unless he gets a kiss from her. He also says he wants to do something else, which clearly wants to fuck her. She refuses, grabs the plate, and he threatens her and says she will regret refusing him and that he will fucking get her. Quite the thing to take in. Part 2. More sexual harassment. He makes more gross comments about her body even though she's clearly not interested. He states he wants to have a taste of that, and he says that he really wants to be with her and be inside her. Not creepy at all. Makes a comment about bending over again and says, "Oh damn baby girl, I really love it when you kneel down like that." And says he won't do anything to her yet, which is a threat. He asks her to reach for the tray and mentions kneeling for like the 4th time, and then says she looks good under him, and then forcefully grabs her against her will and says if the bars weren't there, were not in the way, the things I would do to you, and starts moaning out of nowhere. And he says he wants to touch her in her, private areas, and then forcefully makes out with her while restraining her from leaving. She wants to leave and is clearly extremely uncomfortable, and when she does, he tells Kurapika he wants to kidnap and have her. Part 3. Starting off with him telling listener he wants to make love to her and asks if he should call her mommy. He threatens getting her chewed out or fired by her boss if she doesn't try to get the tray from him. He says he wants to have her body and have her scream and moan his name. He says, "The things I would do to you if the cell wasn't here dividing us." Again. And says, when he gets out of there, he will have sex with her, mark his words. And then forcefully kisses her and gropes her. Again. And calls her property. Not very powerful woman of you, Haruma. She leaves and then he tells Kurapika, "I can't wait till I get out of here so I can show that female hunter what I'm capable of." So clearly that's a lot to digest there. That's all 3 parts of this prison series, and I'll give a rundown of kind of like the main gist of what this series is. Prisoner 099, Killua is a demon prisoner in a demon facility. Don't ask me, I have no idea. And the listener is a professional hunter cook. They're cooking there and they feed Killua dinner, essentially. And he harasses them every single time they come to do that. So that's Prisoner 099. And now I'm going to move on to some personal stuff I found out about Haruma and Haruma. Now, once I realized this situation was pretty bad, I'd like to say that they're probably most likely grooming people. They have a Discord, not able to get to it yet, but I have asked for permission on a side account. They have an Instagram, haven't gotten to that yet because it is private, but my friend has requested that. The way they treat their comments, who are clearly children, is disgusting. They don't put any warning whatsoever except for their R15 and R16 things when they're 20, which is weird because R15, I don't even think that's illegal anywhere. Moving on. If anybody knows this person, I'd like you to say something because this is clearly a lot more than I originally thought. It is disgusting, deplorable, and it shakes me to my core. I don't even want to know what they do in real life if they're so comfortable with posting this kind of stuff. They use their quote-unquote anxiety as a cover-up and are constantly sympathy gaining from their child audience. This is just insane. And if you could please spread the word, I would be eternally grateful. Other than that, that is it. And I am signing off as Temboai or Valten, wherever you're watching this from. Thank you for listening.